the next person who's coming on stage, I've had the opportunity to observe Sheena, and you're welcome to start coming up. And it's incredible because, you know, if I feel an extraordinarily strong presence of Sheena's in the room. I don't know if any of you will agree. But there's an intensity that comes perhaps from the focus that Sheena has. She's been listening intently to everything that's been going on. And there's a kind of, I have a kind of an envy in a way, because there's a focus there that really impresses me. I'd like to welcome Sheena, who's a professor at Columbia Business School, has written a book on choice that I was very impressed with. And she comes and tells me just now that that's not what she's going to talk about. But we've had a tech test as well. And with that, I am going to hand the mic to Sheena. Sheena, such a pleasure to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And, do you want to hold on to this? Or should I leave it back?
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sheena Iyengar, and I am a blind Indian American professor at the Columbia Business School, where it all began with Warren Buffett. And I never had, I guess I'm the first person that I've heard so far that actually never met Warren Buffett. I have had the privilege of getting two messages from Warren Buffett. The first came in the form of a letter after I wrote the book, The Art of Choosing. He wrote me a letter that he had read the book and that he found it interesting, and he sent me some Indian mangoes. Then my most recent book that I wrote, called Think Bigger, I got an email from his assistant saying that he had read the book and found it very interesting. Okay, so those were my only interactions with Warren Buffett. I am somebody who, like Warren, has a real passion. But the question that I have been most passionate about my entire career is, how do we help people get the most from choice? How do we better evaluate choices and identify the best? And how do we create meaningful solutions when there is no known option available? Those are essentially the two questions that I have dedicated my career to studying. And I did so in the course of 2 books. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to present to you first a methodology and then a tool that you can access that helps you do exactly those 2 things. So no, I'm not one of those academics that's going to stand up here and give you a theory. I'm going to explain to you a methodology and then show you how you can actually apply it. And so my colleague here, Elliot, is going to be brave enough to do a live demo in just a few minutes of something that we have spent less than 2 months actually creating. So think of a problem, maybe a work problem. How do I deal with my competitors? How do I raise capital? How do I identify the next best investment, whether it's in technology or something else? We know these sorts of wicked problems, and we know how difficult it is to get it right. And what are our go-to strategies? Well, some of us might have a complex spreadsheet in which we kept all our notes, and we do pros and cons analyses where we compare and contrast various options. Some of us have a whole network of individuals that we consult, and we get their advice, and other times we might even bring together a bunch of people to create a brainstorming meeting where we identify what we should do. What if I were to tell you that we can actually do this in a way that is far more systematic, that reduces risks, that increases your probability of getting it right, but also along the way doesn't do it in a way that feels like magic, that we can actually do it in a way that gives you transparency, which enables you to see the why behind what you're doing, which then enables you to iterate and create other options. And that's what I'm going to show to you. So, I've been developing this method for 20 years, but I started to teach it a little over 10 years ago. And I teach it to entrepreneurs and investors at Columbia, and I'm unveiling it to you today. I'm going to give you a very quick overview. If you want a larger description, you have to read the book. But in just a couple minutes, there are 6 steps. Choose a problem. Break it down. Yes, those sound self-evident, but we also know 72% of companies end up solving for the wrong problem. We actually teach people how to do it right. Then, compare wants. We often struggle to figure out what's the right decision criteria when we have a bazillion options put before us. And Lord knows the number of options we have today are incredibly complex. There's the good, the bad, the indifferent, the trivial, the irrelevant. So, compare wants enables you to consider who are all the stakeholders you need to take into consideration and what do they want, and we do it in an intentional way as we go about to thinking about our problem. Then we have 2 steps, search in and out of the box and the choice map. The choice map is the replacement for this random flashes of insight or these random group flashes of insight. This is a structured way to take a ton of information, curate it, organize it so that you can actually identify the better and worse options. And if no good option exists, it gives you a tool for creating a new solution. So what is a choice map? You have your problem at the top. You have your sub-problems along the side. So let's take a problem that's often on the minds of quite a few important decision makers. How do we get more Americans to buy and use electrical vehicles? Makes sense as a problem. So, well, maybe one of the reasons why we don't do it is because there weren't enough chargers everywhere in the United States. So that seems like an obvious sub-problem. And so what do? We populate the choice map with the important sub-problems that must be solved for in order to solve it. And then what we do is we fill the choice map with a menu of strategies. Think of them as options. With a menu of options that you can take advantage of to solve for your problem. The first column has all the in-domain or within industry options, and the rest of the choice map is made up of options that you can take advantage of that come from totally other industries and totally other points in time. Now, when students do this, it takes them a lot of time to do this research to create this choice map. But I'm going to show you in a few minutes how we can do this much faster. The third eye is a forecasting tool. I've got this idea, but are other people going to see it the way I see it? Is it sticky? And we have a whole set of techniques for doing that. So now what I'm going to do in the brief time that I have is I'm going to quickly show you a demo. In the last 2 months, what happened was some Think Bigger alums came to me and said, Professor, you can actually make this go live and do this in a way that you can put this in the hands of far more people and do it faster. And so what we did, with the help of Elliot here, my colleague, who's a software engineer, what we've been doing is creating a tool. This is a tool that you can put on any device. This is a tool that can sit on top of any data set. For now, we're using large natural language processes, but you can put it on any data set, proprietary or non-proprietary, and it will help you think bigger. This tool is called the Choice Mapper. So I'm going to now walk you through, with the help of Elliot. We're doing this live, and hopefully the internet won't die on us. And so we're going to take the same problem that I just described a second ago. What would it take to get all Americans to use and buy electrical vehicles? Okay. So, Elliot, do you have a mic? Maybe I should move this.
I do, but I'm also typing.
You do. Perfect. So he is now putting in the problem. This is called the Choice Mapper. And so you can use any problem you want. It could be a personal problem. It could be a professional problem. Technically, you can do this with any problem you want. So you put in the problem, and now once you put in the problem, you know how it takes us weeks to really study a problem to figure out the breakdown? When he puts in this problem, he's now going to hit the button, and within less than a minute, it's going to give you its first pass. It already's done it. Its first pass on the subproblems, right? Now you can edit these. Maybe it did. Maybe you know about something that it didn't know, but it gives you the first pass. Okay, so what's like one subproblem of these 5?
I think the most interesting one is how do we ensure equitable access to electric vehicles for all socioeconomic groups?
Okay, so notice here it gave you its first pass of 5 subproblems. You can edit these, but let's keep going. Now the next thing it does, it asks you about who are the stakeholders that you need to pay attention to when you're solving this problem. So it's now going to take us to another screen where we get to input the stakeholders.
So I'm gonna pretend I'm a big boy, and I'm gonna say I'm the CEO of BYD.
All right, he's the CEO, and who's our target?
All American car drivers.
Ooh, okay, that's ambitious. And now we have our external parties. These are the other people that somehow weigh in. You know, the people that can help us, the people that can hurt us, they can put obstacles in front of us. So who might those be? We're certainly Elon Musk.
Yeah,
isn't
Tesla.
gonna be happily.
Regulators,
Uh-huh.
gas companies, ExxonMobil.
Yup. Okay, maybe shareholders. Okay, so these are all our, and you can, again, you can edit these. You can put as many or as few as you want. But we're going to hit the button, and for each of these, it gives you its first take on what these various stakeholders might want. Again, you can edit them, but it gives you a first pass. Okay, so it gives you their wants. And, I'm a big believer. As someone who studies choice, I do not overwhelm people with choice, so I make it on the back end prioritized. So it gives you the 5 most important wants for each of our stakeholders. Okay, so we have our wants.
Still, okay, got them.
Okay, so you can see this.
5 for each.
This, I'm going to later show you. This will serve as our choosing criteria. It will score each of the solutions on how well it does at satisfying all these various stakeholders' needs. So now let's get to the jewel, the actual choice map. That's what takes so much time to get it right. It's now going to generate for you that choice map. Remember what I showed you earlier, which by doing it in real time, we have to spend a lot of time doing the research. And you still have to do the research, but let's imagine it helps you, give you the first pass on that curated list of potential options or strategies that you can use to think about this problem. So, how we're doing on our choice map? Is it still thinking?
It's doing magic right now.
So what's happening is it's creating a choice map. It's taking all the data. Imagine going through a huge library or Google and gathering all that research, and it's curating it, and it's only choosing the best practices both within industry and across industries. The choice map does not contain failures in it. Okay, so we now have our choice map. And let's see, so notice how it has the problem and the sub-problems. Tell us in industry, what are the companies that it pulls up?
Sure, the in-domain tactics are from BYD, from Tesla, from Nissan, from GM, and another BYD.
Okay, so here's something really important. So let's imagine you're BYD. It shows you, hey, I'm doing really well on these 2 things, but let me take a look at what these other companies within my industry are doing on these other things. Are these things that I could benefit from? Maybe improve my practices. Now, the other thing it does, so it now enables you to see your competitors. The other thing it does is it enables you to look at other industries. So let's look at these other industries and think of these as analogs because they're solving for similar problems. Can I learn from them? It's also looking in history. So let's look at some of these other analogs, Elliot. What do they have in there that's interesting?
Sure. I think, well, I'm wearing a Casio watch right now. So it's including Casio, consumer electronics. It's including McDonald's, the fast food restaurant. It's including Patagonia. It's including Singapore government. And then it's got Airbnb and Khan Academy, Whirlpool, the home appliance company.
Cool. Okay. So can you see the diversity here? The diversity across cultures, industries, time. It's giving you a menu, but it's making it manageable. It's about 5 by 5. Can you edit it? Absolutely. Notice how every single one of these has a link that shows you the verification. We do not believe in hallucinations. We do not believe in fake news or false information. Everything has verification. Now, what we're going to do is show you, if you were to coming up with a strategy, let's take the best practices within industry. Let's imagine I'm BYD and I'm asking myself, look, if I just combine within industry, what would happen? How well can I do at serving all my stakeholders? So it's doing what we call choice mapping, which is creative combination. It's when you combine across different strategies and you say, okay, what could this create for me? All right, so it combined within industry, and when it combines it, it gives you a big picture score. What's our big picture score?
For this, we have 88%.
Okay, so this means that, look, if I just combine the best practices within industry, I can account for about 88% of the big picture. And it breaks it down. How much of the chooser's interest does it accommodate versus your target versus, the other external parties? Let's imagine I want to do better than that. Now, you can always go to your choice map and pick different options and say, hey, what would happen if I combine these? But for now, what I'm going to ask Elliot to do is just do a random combination. Now, when it does random combinations, it will not give you anything that's less than 80%. So it does have a threshold, and it'll keep combining and combining until it finds one that's at least 80%. This way, you can compare. So let's see, what did it give us?
Well, it generated one with 76%.
76%. Well, it went a little lower.
Trying another one.
Now, if you see a 76% or something lower than the 88%, that means, hey, look, just staying in industry, I'm actually better off. So you only want to go out of industry and learn from best practices from other industries if it does the same or better. Because if it's the same, it might still give you something that's more doable or makes you more different than what's already going on in your industry.
Still going.
So in truth, the choice map has, the 5 by 5 choice map can create about 3,125 different combinations. It's way too much for our brain to do, but what this does is it goes through it and it gives you ones that are fairly good. Okay, what do we got?
We got one at 84.
At 84,
and then I think we're almost at time.
Okay. Now, we could keep doing this until we get one that's better and compare and contrast. If you pick one, it'll then create for you an elevator pitch. It'll create for you a 2-page memo that you can present to your target. So anyway, to end, I'm a very big believer that you gotta give people the tools to empower them to become better choosers. And that's why I've dedicated my career to doing this. I think the choice mapper can be a real game changer, both for value investors as well as for entrepreneurs. We have a bookmark going around that reminds you about the 6 steps and also gives you a website in case you want to learn more. Elliot and I will stick around if anyone wants to do a demo. And also, if you're interested in the book, I'll be available at the bookstore at the airport this Sunday, and we'll sign books. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sheena. We're going to have a go, like 1 or 2 questions. So, but stay up here because Sheena, you have your.
Okay, thank you.
So I have a confession for you. as a professor, and that is that I decided about 8 months ago, because I was envious of my daughter who's studying at Columbia, that I also wanted to do an undergraduate degree or another degree. So I'm doing in my own time a degree in history, much to the chagrin of my staff.
Oh, wow,
But-
that's very cool.
But one of the things that I insist on staying on the program for is the access to the academic library. In Switzerland, there's a nationwide library called Swisscovery, and it gives me access to an enormous amount of resources that Google cannot search. And I use it in all sorts of ways. It really is an idea generation tool, because there's so much. I mean, just JSTOR alone is incredible, and it's so much fun. And in a way, this is an incredible resource. Does it have access to all of that academic literature?
Yeah, so so this has only been developed for the last 2 months, and we are working on that. So we would like to take information from libraries. We also would like to work with companies to create a firewall around a proprietary data, but it can be used on anything.
So, and for I Google all the time, but there's so much that's available in the world that is not on Google, that is searchable.
That's true.
If you have access to the right databases. I see nobody at the mics. If you want to ask a question, you need to get to the mic within the next 10 seconds. And Sheena, it's such a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for
so
being
much.
here.
Thank you
Miles,
so much, and
for having us here.
Oh,
Okay, we
and
do have.
Wait, one more shout out.
We're going to do one question, and then you'll do your shout out.
Okay.
So we'll do 2 questions, and then go ahead.
Thank you. I
One
really
question.
enjoyed that. I think it's a great tool that can help us get started. But
Well, you
one
should
of-
test it out.
I definitely intend to. Would you agree that the only shortfall that may be there, because I think it's a great tool to help us, but I have very limited understanding of how these generative models work. But they're based on the databases available, so it can only give us solutions that are known solutions to problems.
Yes,
Is
so
that correct?
this is by no means a replacement for humans. This is an aid.
Okay.
Think of this as what the GPS is to the map. This is the GPS for decision making. You know, so the GPS is only as good as the maps it's fed.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sachi, I'm going to move on because we're going to run out of time.
I have a question. Just one thing, if I can say. Sheena, seeing you there on that stage, and I'm a Columbia Business School student, so I am such a fan. But seeing you on that stage, I think, proves to everyone we can make a choice and we can think bigger. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And
Sachi, next year you're the moderator. That was the best closing I could possibly think of.
I do want to do a shout out. I am another Miles Thompson person. So let's all thank Miles too. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheena.
Thank you.